conditions we are experiencing now were actually caused by our behaviour in the period leading up to 2015. We could have saved ourselves, but we didn't. It's amazing. What state of mind were we in to face extinction and simply shrug it off? Remember the English family who went to see the glacier? They're back home in Cornwall, southwest England, inspired to start tackling their own energy wasting.
It says that the average individual in the UK is responsible for emitting 10 tonnes of greenhouse gas a year.
They're calculating exactly how much climate change gases their family currently produces and how it can be reduced.
Yeah, but that's the average individual. There are 5 of us here.
Ah.
Whichever way you look at it, this isn't good.
We produce about half of our food, and we try and keep our consumption of meat and dairy down. My car runs on chip fat, and we do cycles when we can. We've just got our own wind turbine, which will produce all our own electricity.
We're aiming to cut down to about 1 tonne each per year, which is apparently the sustainable amount that the world's trees and plants can reabsorb.
But the big problem is flying. Just one return flight, say London to New York, would blow our entire carbon budget for about 3.5 years. Apparently, other than setting fire to a forest, flying is the single worst thing an ordinary individual can do to cause climate change. So it's a bit of a dilemma because we've just been invited to go skiing in France.
They're now flying from Newquay, which is our nearest airport, it's like 40 minutes from here, to Bergerac, which is like, you know, an hour and a half or something from it. And literally we could leave here in the morning. We live like in Cornwall. We could leave Cornwall in the morning and be in Bergerac by sort of for lunch, after lunch. But if you actually think this is going to cause the death of people, it's actually going to affect people and make that direct connection, then it is a really scary thought. Obviously, us not flying to France or not flying wherever is hardly going to solve the problem. But it's down to what you think is the correct thing to do. Because everyone else is doing it, and that's not a good reason to do anything. You know, you have to look at the terrible things in our history that everyone regrets now. You know, massacres, the Holocaust, etc. And you know, a lot of that was just going along with what was the predominant thinking at the time. I'm almost jealous of the time 5-10 years ago when I could just jump on a plane with impunity. I didn't even think about it. It was just blissful. There's no moral dilemma there whatsoever.
Needless to say, they didn't take that flight. And joining a climate change protest march may not be everybody's idea of a 10th wedding anniversary, but Piers and Lisa have shared ideals from the moment they met.
My friend, we went along to the party together, and she just basically took me straight over to Piers and said, hey, look, you know, Piers, this is Lisa, you know, da-da-da-da-da. And that was it. That was it. We just spent the whole evening talking about wind turbines.
Piers has been developing wind farms in Africa, America and Britain for over 15 years. But he knows that they will only help solve the climate crisis as a small part of a total reordering of Western society.
There's still this idea that somehow we have to find the solution, you know, the silver bullet. No single renewable source is going to be the solution, absolutely not.
And Piers doesn't think much of the other option, whereby everyone crosses their fingers and hopes that a miracle technology will be invented in time.
I'm not saying we shouldn't be developing other stuff, absolutely, we should be. We should be throwing everything at it. But you've got to make use of what's available now. And in the UK, we've got a great wind resource. We just got to bite the bullet and go for it.
Piers has proposed a new wind farm at Airfield Farm in Bedfordshire, central England. He could have 15 turbines installed and generating 30 megawatts of electricity within a year.
Morning, sorry. Well, we're the needs of the revolution, aren't we? Outrage. That's it. Outrage faces. Edward, I've lost your face again. Sorry, chap. You can just cut. That's it. Yeah, good man. Right, okay.
Well, the protest balloon is now going up, but while that's happening, I'll just explain where we are. This is the site of an old World War II bomber base. Phone.
We all have a thumbs down as well.
UK-wide surveys point to about 70 to 80% in favour of wind farms as a concept. The difficulty is when you've got one on your own doorstep, and then it's the sort of not in my backyard syndrome.
Jim, what's the problem?
Well, the problem really is that this is one of the least windy sites in the country.
I hope it's not going to get too windy tomorrow and it wraps itself around the church.
Well, I live in Coddington and we're going to be absolutely surrounded by these high masts and they're going to obliterate the view.
What it normally always comes down to with wind farms is aesthetics. You know, everything else is basically put together to try and back up the ultimate thing, and the ultimate thing is they don't want it to spoil their view.
But I'm a bit concerned about the low-level noise as well.
The wind farm site is right next to the world-famous Centre Pod drag racing strip.
Anybody you ask it, nobody's against wind energy. That's the point.
Yeah.
It's against inappropriate wind energy use.
Okay. Hypnotic. You're driving along and you tend to see the sails revolving and you're not concentrating on the driving.
Ernie Braddock will benefit financially having turbines on his farm, but now he's in conflict with his neighbour, Victoria Reeves.
Well, everyone is very unhappy about it. We're going to lose the value on our properties. We're not going to be able to sleep. It will make a difference. Ernie, you have no idea. Believe me.
According to Victoria, they stopped a wind farm up in Scotland on their other estate in Scotland back in the mid-90s, and that was a great victory.
It can't rely on the wind. It can only deliver...
It's only an additive.
An additive.
It means
Do you mean additional? Yes, it is additional.
It prolongs the resources, put it that way.
No, Ernie, it doesn't.
Oh, it's got to.
It does nothing of the sort.
Got to.
Believe me.
It's got to.
It's an emotional campaign. It's about fear, mostly based on complete frankly. But never mind, facts are not a problem, you know.
It's a fair fight.
Yeah.
And I hope you lose.
All right.
We're not at war at the moment. It's not a war. But if people actually recognise the full implications of what's in store for us, they would be treating it like a war. You only got to take Airfield Farm, for example. I mean, that was a US airbase. You know, people flew out of there and died. For a cause which was massive at the time, a global problem. And we have ourselves now a real global problem that needs that kind of level of commitment.